Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for a special edition of CoCo Cafe TV, where we are having a special interview series for the I Am Campaign 2014. So thank you so much for joining us today. I have a very special guest who I'm so excited to introduce to you. We actually met through an online Bible study, and we have so much in common. We have just been connected ever since. Her name is Jacqueline Owensby, and I'm going to read her bio. At least a piece of this woman has so much going on. I just tell her, girl, you are busy doing God's work. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about her and then introduce her to you. So Jacqueline has been a mentor for women for nearly 2 decades and believes that when we strengthen the woman, we create stronger families and communities. Jacqueline spends most of her time inspiring, motivating, and empowering women to walk in spiritual truth, to build healthy relationships, and to go forth in all God has planned. She serves alongside her husband as the co-founder of Ministry W.I.N.E. She's also the founder herself of Women in Need of Empowerment. I hope she's going to share a little bit about that. They do have a Facebook group, I know. And she also is a founder of Women in Need of Empowerment Coaching and Mentoring Program, which is a faith-based organization rooted in John 15:5. I am the vine, you are the branches. So she'll share a little bit more about herself when we get going, but if you are looking for empowering ministry and strategic life coaching, please be sure to visit her at JacquelineOwensby.com. So welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you. I am so excited about this, Miss Graham.
Oh, I am too. I'm so glad we connected, and I apologize to those who may have been viewing live that we had a little bit of technical glitch, but it happens. But we're here with you, and we're so excited. So, Jacqueline, tell our audience a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what things you're up to today in ministry and business.
Okay, well, you've already introduced me. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Ms. CoCo. Well, we live on the peninsula in Virginia. I'm out of Hampton, Virginia. Originally, I am from North Carolina, small town girl, brought up in the country on the dirt road, always aspiring to do something better, be something better, expand territory. And left for college. A little bit about me. Left for college, met my husband while in college. We are a prior military family, did some traveling. And God has a way of waking you up to reality. We come with a list of plans. And I believe some women were much like me who, while in high school maybe, or even just growing up in their neighborhood, started to kind of dream big and dream beyond their borders. And so you come up with this wonderful plan, and then what happens is life.
Yes.
Hits you, and then you get a clue. And so that's sort of what happened with me. Life hit me, and I got a clue. I am, as you said, the founder of Women in Need of Empowerment, and we host annual events in the area for women. My passion really is definitely linked to what I do with coaching, and that is to help women to live a fulfilled life. A lot of us are just going in circles. It's sort of like that woman at the well, when she met Jesus there. Before, she was just going in a circle, a vicious cycle, and she had to loop out of that. When do we get to a point in our lives where we're ready to really loop out of the circle? And I believe it is directly connected to when we say yes to Him and His will for us. That's what's going to bring us that fulfillment. That's going to align us with our purpose.
That's beautiful. And I love how you said it really starts when we say yes to Him. So I'm going to ask you a little bit about that, because I think when people meet you now or me now or other women who are in ministry business, they think we arrived like this, right? Whole and, walking strongly in our faith. And they don't always know the backstory, like what it took for us to get here. And sometimes that can be intimidating to other women because they're thinking, I could never do that because I have, this challenge, or I've been through this, and they don't know, no, we've been through it too. So maybe share a little bit about your story. What was happening for you before the yes? Before you really said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to walk this path, and I'm going to really follow my purpose. What was happening in your life before, and what was really the turning point for you?
I'm so glad you asked that. That's a great question. Well, the turning point for me, I think, came after I said I do to marriage. You know, it's easy to do it by yourself, to get a plan and sort of stick to it. But then when you start getting the challenges, then that sort of gets you to a place where you say, okay, what I'm doing isn't working, and now how am I going to loop out of that? And even long before I said I do to my husband, I believe there were things going on inside of me just based on my environmental influences. You know, I grew up in a home where my father was illiterate. My mother was the one that sort of was the peacemaker. I was taken from my wonderful neighborhood where everyone knew me and I knew everyone, and I was transported over to an era during the time where they were busing students to this particular area in our city. My father moved us there, and I was in an entirely different environment. It caused me to have to deal with real life issues that I'd never been exposed to, and at such a young age.
Yes.
My mother divorcing or separating from my husband after I was about maybe 12 years old, she decided to leave. One day she just walks in and says, pack and let's go. Add all of that to the bundle, and what do you get? A lot of brokenness.
Yes.
You get a lot of heartache. And that's not even, you know, the top of the iceberg. That's just a snippet of what can happen to cause you to want to do better and change. I knew this as I got older. I did not want to be in a world where I blamed my parents because they did what they knew to do. They did their best. But I didn't want to use that as an excuse to stop me from going forward. So for me, it was the will to fight and not give up that got me to this place. Being consistent and the will to fight and not give up.
Yeah, that's good. Because we, like you said, we all have a backstory. We all have been through things. We all have had things that have been outside of our control that happened to us. Sometimes things that we brought upon ourselves, but we don't have to be victim to that. So I love that you say, you know, making a decision like, I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better. I know there's something bigger in store for me, and really pursuing that. So I have to imagine, kind of with, you know, some of your family dynamics and experiences that you had, that there were probably some internal messages that were negative that you had to really combat, and that's really been the focus of the I Am campaign, to turn those negative messages around, or actually eliminate them, and really stand in who we are in Christ. So can you share a little bit, you know, were there internal negative messages that you had to work through to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I can attest to that. A lot of it, large in part, comes from, one, like you said, the environment. Though my father was illiterate, he did everything he could to give his children opportunity, to set us up for opportunity. And one example is when he purchased a chalkboard for me and refused and forbid me to go outside until I could learn my alphabet, until I could spell my name, which I still remember that to this day. I remember how forceful and serious he was about these things. And mind you, I never knew my father was illiterate until I got to college.
Wow.
I did not know that. So then I began to understand what I called being tough and hard, what I called being, you know, just too authoritative, was really his love for me to go and grow and do better. So some of the lessons: never give up and never be afraid of failure. I think a lot of times we look at failure as just that. I failed, I'm never going to be able to do anything, it's not going to work. And so we fill our minds with all of the negative, and we talk ourselves out of things. And what I like to call that sometimes is we're taking ourselves entirely too serious. We really take ourselves too seriously. So I failed at it, it didn't work. But what I did was I learned something. So I like to say I'm falling forward.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm not falling backward, I'm falling forward, because I have decided to live in my purpose, which is to make a difference in others' lives, and to understand that everything I endured, everything that I went through, be it through my family dynamics, or be it through my environment, or be it through the community I lived in, everything I went through has served a purpose for me and made me stronger for where I am today.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is so key is, like you said, you know, God can take even those hard times or the challenging times, and He can turn around and use those for good, and we can use those times to encourage someone else. Like you said, to be able to say, I've been through that, I've walked down that road, I know where you've been, but I know where you can go too. So I
Right.
know you coach with women and you do a lot of ministry things. So if, there's a woman who's at that crossroad who says, I know there's something more, I know I have something bigger in store, but I've been dealing with all of these things, what might be some steps or some strategies, some tools you might, suggest for her just to get going in that direction? What would, if you were kind of coaching her, what would you suggest to her in that moment?
The first thing, I am a big believer in writing things down. We can have a lot of things stuck in here between our ears, a lot of things going on and swimming around, but I'm a big believer of writing down goals, writing down what it is you desire. I used to do a lot of journaling when I was younger, and I still do. I'm a big believer of that, because what you're doing is freezing that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm freezing how I felt, I'm freezing what I'm experiencing, and so I'm going to go back, and that's going to bless me later. But one thing I would tell them is start writing things down and exploring. A lot of times we feel lost and stuck because we're not doing anything. So
Yeah.
how about find one thing that you can do and get busy doing that? I believe that God will begin to create a spider web that will expand out from what you have committed to, and you'll begin to find out you had other interests that you were not even aware of, maybe other gifts that you would never have attempted if you had not made that first step. Get busy serving someone other than yourself.
Good.
To understand your passion.
Yeah, that's good. Get busy serving. Because when we can take the focus off of ourselves, one, it helps us see our situation is not that bad, or there are things that we can do. And then just that action starts to breed, clarity, confidence. God starts moving on our behalf. So, yes, women, get busy serving.
Okay.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. So tell me, were you raised in the church? Did you always know God, or was there, a time later in life that you came to know Him? Share with us a little bit about your faith story and journey.
Well, I can tell you what, if it was just you and I talking, I'd laugh and not answer that. But since I know some people that may know me is watching this.
So tell the truth. You don't have to tell all the nitty-gritty details, but you got to tell the truth.
No, I really was not what you would say raised in the church. We were forced to go because my grandmother believed in that. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of times when my parents were together, my father would literally get up, cook breakfast, and send us out the door to go. Now, he didn't go with us. Sometimes we went with our grandparents. But there was always a presence or a sense of honor and respect to God. Mm-hmm. I grew up that way. Now, once I got to college and had my wild times, I want you to know I quick fast and in a hurry wanted to get closer to Him. So my journey with Christ really began when I met my husband and we got engaged. When we joined each other overseas to really become as one, I learned to get closer to Christ in ways I didn't know I could. We actually had a conversation with the Lord in our homes, in our home, in our bedroom. One evening he came in from work. We were like about to call it quits. It wasn't going to work. We're overseas in a foreign country. I don't know anyone. I can't pursue my career. Who else are you going to lean on?
Yes.
Who else is going to have the answer? I couldn't go home. And so that was my awakening. And that was when I took the first step to connect with my Savior. And just doing that alone, not that everything was not perfect, but what it did was it gave me a better sense of awareness. And that's something I feel that many of us are out of touch with. We don't have a sense of awareness and sensitivity anymore. So how can we know what we're called to do, what we were born to do? We make it a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And like how you brought up too, sometimes it is in those critical moments, those hardest times, that we do cry out like we never have before. And I have found that in those challenging moments, even in the moment, it does not feel good. I mean, let's just be real. It does not feel good. I don't want to be super spiritual. It does not feel good. Right. But the lessons that I have learned and the things that I have, and the ways I have been strengthened, the way my faith has grown, and the way I have come out on the other side helps me to see the purpose in that painful situation. I don't, want to romanticize it. It doesn't feel good in the moment. But if we keep, like you said, leaning on God, trusting in Him like never before, calling out to Him, He will turn that situation around, and we're going to come out, you know, it's kind of like, you know, the going through the flame, you know, you're going to come out more refined on the other side and better, you know, a stronger vessel for his purpose. And I think as married women, that's so critical. You know, I had posted, I think, you know, Monday, so this is a couple of days ago, I tried to post that a Marriage Monday tip, but it was, you know, when you decide to stand, the thing to do next is to kneel. And what I was referring to is when you're going through that hard season in your marriage and you feel like I really could walk away, but instead you decide to stand. Yes. You are going to have to get on your knees and spend some time with God to get through that, because you're still hurt and upset and angry. But, you know, you can make a decision to stand, but it doesn't mean all that emotional yuckiness has gone away. I mean, only through, you know, with God can he really heal and work through that. And so it takes that real quality time and turning those things over to him. And so I'm glad you brought that out. And, you know, and look, how long have you and your husband been married now?
25 years this year. So I know what getting on your knees means. Mother of two, I know what getting on your knees means. And it's so important to have that balance. The thing that blesses me is that when you're in a relationship where both are working together for a common goal, you have a target that you are in pursuit of together, it makes it that much more enjoyable. So it can be great, but it's going to take a little work and rolling up your sleeves. Mm-hmm. And that's the message I would tell anyone in a relationship.
Yes, I say there's a reason why they call it a labor of love, because you're going to work. Labor is work. You are going to work, but it will work. I mean, look at you guys, 25 years. I'm just going to say I'm next. I've got 15, but we're going to, you know, but 25 is, so that's awesome. That's awesome. So when you're kind of, you know, going through, as we all are, what are some of your favorite scriptures? Like, what really sustains you or helps you to recall God's promises, or, you know, really inspires you when you're going through tough seasons?
One of my favorites that kept me is, as you know, being a prior military family, we've done a lot of traveling and transitioning, and with every transition there's been a new challenge. One of my favorites God gave me back in 2006. It is really similar to one of my prior favorites, but my favorite it's a sort of my go-to is Psalm 27:13-14. And it talks about how I would have lost hope if I had not believed in the goodness of the Lord, that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And it instructs me to wait on the Lord. But I look at that as not just a passive kind of waiting, but a waiting with anticipation and hope, a waiting for his promise, for his instruction. And while I'm waiting, it doesn't mean that I'm being passive, that I'm sitting down with my arms folded. It means I'm waiting through the process and trusting him.
Yeah, I love that. And you said, we know there is a promise in heaven. Yes. But that scripture reminds us, no, we have promises here on earth. Like, he is promising we're going to see it in the land of the living while we are here. Like, we can hold on to that it's going to happen for us here in this time. I mean, we know we have greater things to come, but we can have that reassurance that goodness is coming to us in this lifetime. So, I like that. I mean, when you're ready, it just gave me chills.
Good, yes.
I love it. I love it.
Especially when I'm having a hard time. That's one of my reminders. It empowers me. And I know we all have notes. I'm a word person. And so while I'm a big believer in dream boards, vision boards, and actually I host quarterly workshops here that are free for women in the area, and we work on our dream boards and vision boards. But in addition to that, in my study, I have a huge word board. And God gives me words every year. This year's word for me was to engage. So everything that I'm doing, I'm looking for that word in it. Am I engaging life? Am I engaging his promises? Am I engaging my relationships? It's so important that we are tapped into that source.
That's so interesting that you say that, because this was the first year, too, that I really decided to have a word for the year. I really prayed about it. I stopped doing New Year's resolutions a while ago, but I would really still spend time at the beginning of the year asking God, you know, what is it that you have for me for this particular year? I'm not going to call it really a resolution, but, you know, what is it that you have for me? And I don't know, I think I saw someone last fall talking about their word for the year, and I thought, that's so powerful. And so, in December, I started really praying about that. What is my word for this year? Because same thing, I want to really be focused in the things that I'm doing, because life can get busy and we can get pulled in so many different directions. And so, it's one of those things, if I have a goal or a focus, a target, then I know what things to say yes to or no to, or know how to, evaluate, am I on track? And, kind of two things came to me. One was the word accelerate.
Okay.
And I felt like God was saying that all of the things that I had been doing in, years, months, times past, was going to help me to accelerate through this particular season. Like, there were some things that were going to happen at an accelerated rate this year. So I was like, oh boy, I better hold on. But I also felt my, word too was really about trust. And it has, just in these first 6 months, trusting God at a level that I have never done before and never really had to. But to watch him work in this season, and as I'm going through things, like you said, I kind of go back and say, okay, am I trusting God in this, or am I trying to rely on myself?
Right.
And, and so it has been really good to have that as a marker to come back to. It's like, okay, am I trusting God in this?
Yes.
Am I really stepping out? So I love that too. Engage too. What a powerful word.
Yes, and what I get so excited about is not just when he gives me the word, but how you will begin to see life begin to form around that promise that he's giving you in that. I'm always reminded of, we can work as hard as we want to try and achieve something, or we can try to work smarter about it. Yeah. And working smarter kind of reminds me of my reliance upon him. And I believe what, God, he always whispers this in my ear, I don't have to know everything. And I don't have to be everything. I'm just required to be me and to hone in on what he has created me to be in his image. I don't have to go through that process of trying to mimic someone else. That's working hard. Yes. But when I focus on being me and I am in love with that, because he created me, it's all going to turn out well.
That's beautiful. Beautiful.
And genuine.
Yes. Being authentic and genuine. You're right. It's so important, because we can be, I see this for women in business or even in ministry, you can begin to start looking at other people and begin to want to emulate what they are doing. And it's okay to admire the work of someone else, but it's, but we have to come back to what is it that God has for us, and how is he calling us to do work or ministry or family or whatever, because like you said, it's so important to be authentic, because God created us with value and gifts and people that we're to reach, be it ourselves. And so that's so, I'm glad you said that, because sometimes, again, as women, we can really spin our wheels, either spending so much time watching someone else and wanting to be like them because we don't feel confident enough, or that we're worthy or valuable enough, or or sometimes that little green-eyed monster of jealousy might, rear its head. And it's, we all go through that. We all have to fight through those things, but it is coming back to realizing who we are in Christ and the value that he has placed in each of us, and the unique path that he has for us that is unique, that nobody else can walk our path.
That's right.
So good.
He created us, to be who we are. And we all have something unique that we bring to the table. It's just a matter of tapping into that. And it may be similar to someone else's vision or someone else's dream, and that's great because you can encourage each other. But you have something unique that you bring to the table. You have something that keeps you up at night that you're passionate about, something that gets your feathers ruffled and you want to do something about it. And for me, it's women, because what I watched my mother go through the course of her life, it gave me this anger on the inside that it took me years to sort of get to a place where I would allow it to be channeled into something beautiful. And that's the place that I believe I am today, that God took that ugliness, he took that anger, he took that bitterness, and he channeled that. He didn't just discard those gifts that he gave me. The passion is good, but he showed me how to channel it and make a difference in the lives of others.
Which is a perfect segue. So before we wrap up, I want you to share with the women, what things you're doing in terms of ministry, what's on the horizon, how you're, using your gifts, and how women can connect with you if they want to know more about your work or to get coached or invite you up to speak. So this is kind of your brag time.
Yay! I love this. Well, you can visit me at JacquelineOwensby.com. You can also visit me on Facebook at Jacqueline Owensby. I'm on Twitter at Jackie O, and that's JACQUEO. There, you could just Google my name and you'll be able to connect some way with me. But we have something I'm so excited about that we're planning this year. Every year we have a conference. This year is going to be different though, because on October the 11th we are sponsoring. And when I say we, this is the ministry that I co-founded with my husband, the Ministry of W.I.N.E. We're having a co-ed conference here in Hampton, Virginia. We're so excited about it because men and women will be able to attend, whereas in past times it was just geared to women. And so we're so thrilled about that, about what's going to go forth. And you would not believe what we're talking about. Uncharted territory. Uncharted territory, because that's what God is doing. He's taking us out and expanding our borders. And so I'm really excited about that. They can connect with me, and if you go to JacquelineOwensby.com, there's a resource page and there's a coaching corner. You can go there and find out about when I'm doing coaching sessions in the area, and they're free.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's awesome. It's for free. You get to come and just be a part. And then I publish a monthly newsletter, and they can go to stayonthevine.com to be a part of that inspirational newsletter. Just something to keep us inspired and going, food for thought, to take us back to God's Word and see what He has to say about the matter, because we'll take everyone else's advice, but we forget to go back and consult the Creator. It's sort of like when you're driving an automobile. I'm not going to take that to the surgeon. I have to take it to the car shop. Those were the people that created it. They're the ones that know the dynamics of that vehicle. And we have to do the same thing for ourselves. Go back to the Creator, get a plan, and get an answer so we can move forward. So we're doing a lot here in the community. I'm excited about it. And they can go to JacquelineOwensby.com, ministryofrain.com, or just connect with me on Facebook at Jacqueline Owensby.
And let me encourage you ladies to get connected. Like I said, I've only known Jacqueline for, I guess, a few months, but it does feel like it's been quite longer. And, I can just say she is a real, genuine person. She truly has a heart for women and ministry, and she is busy about her Father's business. And I know she has just, more good things to share with you. So I'm going to encourage you women to really, truly connect with her. And thank you, Jacqueline, for being with me today. I have enjoyed our conversation. You just have become really, really dear to me, and I'm glad we got the tech stuff worked out and we're able to connect and share this with everyone.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.